What she is about now?
She has Nelson Piquet Jr. accessories. She's got a bracelet.
She's mostly known for races. I see her in the shop all the time, and she still hasn't been by my house yet, but I'm sure she'll be there soon.
I just found out where he lives, ma'am, so I'll tell you.
Oh, goodness. I don't want to see you on the news, please. We try not to encourage that in the Nascar Hall of Fame. So how's everybody doing? Thanks for coming out on your Saturday.
Thanks for having us. Pretty excited to see all the people come out. It's awesome.
Is this anybody's first time at the hall?
I've been here before. I was here for the original inauguration, which was, I'm an old guy. These are all the young guys here. But what I am really excited about, if everybody turns over their shoulder, there's a temporary display right there in that blue cabinet. And unfortunately, my father passed away last October, but he was the driving force between Rusty, myself, and Kenny racing. And the hall was nice enough. They put a tribute to short track racers, not just Cup stars and that. And they asked for one of my father's trophies, and Mom dug them out. My mom's standing back there, so we you look over there, and there's a plaque, a trophy of my dad, and Rusty's in that short track Hall of Fame thing. So excited to be here. Let's get to see that.
Yeah, the short tracks is something that we have decided to highlight here. We've actually started to go out. We went to Bowman Gray Stadium a couple weeks ago. That was my first time. It was a lot of fun out there. We'll be going to Hickory, Greenville, Pickens, and South Boston all throughout the summer. Now, Mike, you mentioned your family in racing, so of course I'm going to ask you about Rusty's recent news that he's going to be one of the newest members of the NASCAR Hall of Fame inductees.
That's exciting news for our family. What was really surprising to me is all the phone calls I got congratulating me. And it's like, it's not me in the Hall of Fame. And it's like, oh no, it's your family though. And Eddie Wood told me a couple weeks ago, he said, Mike, you'll be shockingly surprised at how everybody attaches to the family, not just Rusty in this case. And in his case, it was, Ed or Glenn first and Leonard this year. But when you race for a long time, we grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Rusty grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. We were young kids, and we did everything it took to drive race cars. Some of them were not all real ethical at times, but we got our point done. And to see him honored as a champion, which he is. Nelson and I, just recently met him, and he kicked everybody's butt last week at Road America. So kudos to Nelson Piquet. I'm really impressed with his performance. We were just talking about, he was one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers, won 60-something races, championship, and now to be the youngest person in the Hall of Fame, that he can still talk about the Hall of Fame. It is a big deal, and this is a beautiful facility. Thank all you folks for being here this morning, or this afternoon, whatever it's going to end up being. And, it's just great, and our whole family is very indebted to NASCAR. We love this sport, we love what it stands for, and we hope to be part of making it prosper. We've seen, as some people want to say, maybe the heyday. We want to see those bigger heydays again and be part of that. These guys here will help continue the whole deal, and I'm still raced last night in Kentucky, and I think we officially raced, or we're going to race in the hottest day ever. And then we had this incredible windstorm come along. It didn't rain one bit, blew everything down, and dropped the temperature by 20 degrees.
Yeah, y'all needed that. I heard it was miserable out there. Now, I know you touched a little bit on Nelson's win at Road America last week. And so, Nelson, I want to ask you, how's the whirlwind of a week been coming off that win? That was, Nelson, was it your third nationwide start?
Yeah, it was an amazing feeling, obviously, to win a race. Obviously, it wasn't a road course, which is something that I've grown up doing my whole life. So I must say I have probably much more experience than a lot of the drivers that were racing there and those kind of tracks. But it was fun. I mean, obviously, being the first resident to win in a NASCAR sanctioned championship is great. It's a great feeling that obviously the next day you wake up, everything's back to normal, and you focus back on what's my main goal, which is the truck series. And so I had to go. It's something that it's a good feeling for a few hours and everything, but after you wake up the next day, everything's back to normal, and you need to focus on what I'm here for, is to learn ovals, is to learn what I came here for, and And yeah, I mean, I think I'm in a great organization, Turner Motorsports. They're doing a great job for me, and I'm in a big learning curve. You know, 2 days ago in Kentucky, we had a tough day, qualified second, was running in the top 10, and then just was in the wrong time, in the wrong place, and then just.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault.
What are you guys wrecking or what? Yes.
But yeah, I think I'm more pissed off at myself for being in that position. We had a truck that could have been a bit more up front at that point. But anyway, it was good to have a win.
We can create some controversy here.
I wasn't planning on having a
Not
referee
fighting
in this,
yet.
but maybe I should.
But there's a good reason I'll be angry. Not yet. But anyway, it was good to win, and hopefully we can be in the road course. I'll be in Watkins Glen again to try to get another victory in the Nationwide Series.
Justin, do you want to comment?
It wasn't my fault.
Can I interrupt?
It never is.
Yeah, absolutely.
They walked us into the Legends room over here, and I was shocked because they have these little cocktail tables, and there's 4 of them, but they're all set 20 feet apart. I didn't realize this happened, so now it rings a bell why these chairs are all apart.
The stanchions are coming later. We'll have a stanchion later, don't worry. All right, Justin. After coming off your top 10 finish in Texas a couple weeks ago, you didn't exactly take the off weekend to relax and celebrate. What were you doing during that off weekend?
I rarely even know when off weekend is anymore in my life. I always seem to stay very busy, and right after Texas, I flew home, and it was actually a big day. My youngest sister was graduating from high school, and her 18th birthday was a couple days later, so that was really cool to be able to actually have an off weekend, to be a part of that. You know, as racing, we all take a lot of sacrifices, and unfortunately, you miss out on a lot of family things. So it was really special to actually be home and be a part of that with her. And then basically the next day took off, flew to New Hampshire for 5 days, spent 5 days at a rally school up there, car control school. Obviously didn't come into too much help on Thursday night, but you know, I went up and did that, and then flew home, landed in Charlotte at 9:30, and 11 o'clock I was in a truck heading to Nashville to be a part of a music video that I co-own a production company, and we shot a music video for a guy named John Stone. Had a lot of fun there, and came home, turned around, and went to Kentucky.
Now, do you guys have an off weekend this coming weekend?
Yeah, we do.
The truck series? Do you may have any special plans?
I'm probably going to see the IndyCar race in Toronto, so it's not 100%, but that's what I think I'm going to do.
I got a dirt super late model. I'm sure I'm going to go run it somewhere.
Do you guys do anything besides race on the weekends? I guess that would be my question.
Well, in my case, I'm pretty terrible at everything, but I'm not even sure if I'm good at racing. So, but no, that's about all. If I'm not racing, I'm racing. So.
Well, Joey, I wouldn't say that you're all bad. You did have a top 10 finish this weekend. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what it's like coming into a track like Kentucky where maybe you didn't have a great experience or previous performance?
It's always been a fun track to me. We really haven't had much luck there, I guess. But it was interesting this past week because it was just so hot, it was so slick, and I kept telling my crew chief, I said, man, this is the weirdest feeling truck I've ever driven. The whole night, all day in practice, qualifying, just sliding around. But I know it made it fun to watch. I probably got more text messages and messages on Twitter saying how exciting the race was. So I guess that was a good thing, but it was definitely a handful from the driver's perspective.
And so is there any kind of mind game when you go back into that situation, and how do you overcome it? Because you obviously did this weekend.
I mean, really, just hang on and, keep your head down, just keep focusing on what's in front of you. It gets, like, Thursday night, there was a couple times where we got in some pretty hairy situations, and, the only thing you do is just keep going, try not to get out of the throttle too much and get run over. It gets pretty insane sometimes.
All right, well, that's all the questions I have for about racing. I've got some pop culture questions I'm going to ask you guys in a little bit. We're going to test your knowledge, because it sounds like y'all don't do a lot besides race. So we're going to take some fan questions, if anybody has them. Mike over here has got the mic.
Mike's got the mic, that's the
My question's for Nelson. What made you want to come to NASCAR from Brazil, and were you able to watch NASCAR races over there growing up?
After I decided to do something else apart from Formula One, I didn't know what I wanted to do. If it would be Indy cars or NASCAR or even something else in Europe. And somebody invited me to do a test over here and a race in 2009 or 10. 9, I think it was. And I did a test at Motor Mile, and I really enjoyed it. You know, it was fun. The truck had a lot of power, and then they said, "You want to do the race at Daytona next year?" I said, "Sure." And I did the Daytona race beginning of 2010, February, and I loved it. You know, I said, "Oh, it was one of the coolest races I've done before in my whole life," and I finished 6th in my first race there. And was really excited about it. The track was fun at the time, you know, it was still bumpy and it was still, you know, drivable track. And I said, I want to stick around here for 1 year to see what I feel about it. And I stayed the whole 2010, still not living here, so but doing a few races here and there, some ARCA races, some truck races. And then by then, I knew I liked it, but I wasn't in love with it yet. And then I decided to live in North Carolina the end of 2010. So I rented a house in Mooresville, and then I did the whole of last season with KHI, and that's when I really fell in love with the place, the sport, the culture, the people, just everything, and you know, that's when I really was 110% sure I wanted to stick around here.
Gotcha. Do we have any more fan questions? That one right here.
Hi, this question is for actually all four of you. What got you interested in racing, and what was your first formal type of racing that you were involved in?
I started racing when I was 8, and really what got me into it was just watching it. My parents were pretty big race fans, and you know, watched it on TV every weekend, and took me to Daytona 500 when I was 2 or 3 years old. I actually grew up a huge Rusty Wallace fan. And
That's good.
So
I flew home with his jet last night, thank you.
But so I got in. I really started enjoying it, just watching it, and I wanted to be around it all the time. I lived 2 minutes from a short track in Miami called Hialeah Speedway, and every Saturday night I was there, right when the gates opened, watched practice and everything. Just really got into it. And when I turned 8 years old, started begging my parents for a go-kart, said I want to go race, and then it just kind of all started from there.
My dad raced off-road cars. I'm from Southern California, so we did all the Baja 1000 and all the different desert races out there. So I grew up watching him race, and I actually kind of went in a different turn and started racing BMX bikes and downhill mountain bikes. And when I was 16, I had basically a career-ending injury from riding a bike, and that was just a natural progression. I guess there's the saying that age comes a cage. I just experienced that really early on, and my very first kind of racing I got into was Colorado hill climb stuff, and did the Pikes Peak race and different things like that throughout Colorado, and made the transition over to stock cars.
Myself, it's totally different. Today, you can start racing when you're really young. When I grew up, you had to be 16 years old before you could drive a race car. So you had to, my mom went and got us a permit at 15 years old, signed off, and released everybody. But I drove with my dad, raced the local short track races in St. Louis, Missouri. A racetrack called Lake Hill Speedway, Rolla, Missouri, Tri-City Speedway. And we just grew up. Rusty, Kenny, and I worked on my dad's cars. The progression is just how they age. Rusty started racing. When he became 16, I still worked on my dad's car, and then I started racing, and I kind of went in a different avenue. I went dirt racing and raced a tremendous amount of dirt races throughout the Midwest, and had a lot of success there. And then, you know, just as things progressed, Kenny started that way. And I also worked in our family business, which was a vacuum cleaner janitorial supply business. Not very exciting sounding, but it paid really good money. And so just did that for years, and then you know, won a lot of races in the Midwest. And Rusty had won a championship by that time down here. Kenny was down racing, and In 1990, I won the Winston Racing Series and said if I didn't try to make this opportunity happen, I'd be miserable my whole life. Moved here in 91 and was telling Nelson standing in another room, they're still paying me to be here, so I'm excited about this. And, just won Talladega last year. You mentioned he started with KHI. I drove a KHI truck in Talladega and won there. And looking at going to Daytona this week and possibly get my 4th win in Daytona, so I'm excited about it.
In my case, yeah, basically the same. My father raced, obviously, and he just gave me the opportunity when I was very young, like any father that has been racing. And when I was about 8, and that was it. Started doing go-karts, and I got really serious about it when I was 16, when I started to drive open-wheel Formula cars, and stayed in Brazil until I was 16, 17, then I moved to England, and that's when it became really professional. But it was just opportunity that my father gave, and obviously my father gave it to all my brothers. Not all of them took them. Some of them didn't like it. Some of them he thought that they didn't love it enough, and it's only me and my older brother races as a hobby, and there's a younger one that is 13 now. He's doing go-karts still, but so in the next 2 years we'll know if he really wants to do it or what's going to be the deal. But at the moment he's doing go-karts.
Okay, so we're going to move on from the fan questions, and we have a little game sometimes that we like to play here at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Do you guys watch Ellen ever? So sometimes she'll ask her celebrity guest questions, and instead of rewarding them, they reward the audience. I love Ellen, right? She's great. So I have a whole bag of koozies that I found behind customer service that you guys can get 2 out of 3 of these things. I'll give them to everyone in the audience. All right, so no pressure.
Should we just apologize in advance?
Y'all can play as a team, though.
Okay, hang on. I have my Sprint 4G phone. I'm going to turn it on now. Somebody out there in the crowd, get ready.
I'm going to make sure and tell Jeff Smith at Sprint that you plugged in.
Yeah, so Jeff's a great guy.
I'm sure he'll love that.
Yes.
So you can Google if need be. How about that? No cheating, though, from the audience. Okay, the
What is
first.
cheating considered?
Well, I guess in our case, if you ain't cheating, you ain't winning, right? So, okay, the first one's easy, though. No one should need to cheat. What celebrity power couple announced their divorce yesterday?
Tom Cruise. She gets $15 million up front. Could be worth $125 million if you would have stuck it out for 6 more years.
I can't believe there was just one last night.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so here's my next one. And this can be a collaboration effort.
Racing? Weren't you racing last night?
I did. Hey, I want to tell you, yes, I did race last night.
But
This is the plug when he said he's a Rusty Wallace fan. You got to listen to this. I called Rusty yesterday. I was on a charter flight. I says, hey, you got your jet down here. It's hotter than heck. I says, can I fly home with you? He goes, yeah. He says, got to meet me at the helipad, though. He says, I got Roger's helicopter. I'm going to fly to there. I left the racetrack. We took off at 10:37. I landed in Concord at 11:34. From Kentucky Speedway, from the racetrack to landing in less than an hour. So I got home in time for the midnight news.
I'll see here.
CNN.
Got it.
I was home. I only lived 8 minutes from the airport. Laid back in bed. Yeah, get the remote.
I
CNN.
think after Kentucky I was a bit pissed off and I
Yeah.
turned all the lights off.
You're still pissed off. It sounds like. But there it is. Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise, breaking news after their 5-year marriage, they're getting a divorce. And it all has something to do with Scientology religion. That's what it said. That's more than you needed to know, wasn't it?
Well, I can't even make it from here to the lake in that amount of
Can
time.
you believe that? Now?
That's crazy. Okay.
It made a bad night good.
All right, Mike. Then I'm gonna hope you're gonna carry me on this one. Now, can any of you guys sing the chorus to the song "Call Me Maybe"? I know someone can. Nelson, are you gonna throw Justin under the bus on that?
He's in the music business.
I think it would be a between y'all, I might be able to go with.
Come on, I know somebody can sing it. Call me maybe. Maybe. Obviously, Mike's not going to be no help on this one.
Call me maybe, baby.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Wallace did it.
Come on, you guys. Nelson, I know you can do it.
I have no idea.
Are you lying? What if I can
Well, since
start-
4 of us don't know the name of the song at all, so.
No?
Who sings
Okay.
it?
Who sings that song?
We're asking you.
Robin knows. Why'd you raise your hand then?
Isn't it like Carly Rae Jasper?
Robin's trying to cheat for you.
I think it's Carly Rae
Send
Jasper.
us the lyrics. Somebody send
Carly
it.
Rae Jepsen.
Or Jasper, yeah.
Y'all know it. So I just met you, and this is crazy. Nobody knows the song?
I don't know if you realize it, everybody's shaking their head no.
Oh my goodness. Alright, okay, well then that means you guys have to get this last one. So the last one's not quite a question, it's more of a task. Can anyone here do a head or handstand?
Google that.
Anybody? We will take a cartwheel. No?
We're doing this for one reason, to make sure.
Because we want to give the fans the koozies.
Nelson. No, I want your help. Okay? I'm going to get down there. I'm going to stand up, you grab my legs and hold me up. Okay? You grab my legs.
Let's cheer on guys. This is for koozies. Please do not hurt yourself.
Player for all of you. This
Mike Wallace won y'all these koozies, alright? Let's give them all a round of
Thank you.
applause. You guys have all been great. Thank y'all so much.
We're just not talking about things. It is started.
I got a lot of sleep last night. I'm good.
Yeah, see, you had an hour flight, less than an hour flight. I had an 11-hour drive.
That's what age and maturity gets for you.
That's all those Rusty Wallace t-shirts I bought.
When you said that, that's exactly when everybody says they're a Rusty Wallace fan. I just tell them thank you because I get to ride on his airplane, his helicopter. That's how it all got paid for. So.
Alright, well y'all have been great. Let's give them all a big round of applause. We're going to meet all of our members and our race ticket party holders. We're going to do a meet and greet back here in the Legends room so you guys can make your way out.